Happy Friday, y'all. It is time for another amazing episode of the Women Entrepreneurs Living Child-Free. And I'm super excited today to be joined by Debra Eckerling. Welcome, Debra.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I remember I was so jazzed when I met you, so I always love it when I get to talk to cool people and let other people watch.
Yay! Oh, it's so much fun to have these conversations online. Like sometimes I'm like, this feels almost like a little mini one-to-one, and it's live for everyone to see.
Yay!
So let me ask, why were you excited to meet me? Because that's just where we're going to start today, apparently.
Well, so we met through Innovation Women Lioness, and it's really all about, empowering people. I say all the time, you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. And when people show up with good energy, like you do, let's be honest, like I do, it's always like, my people.
And not only is it the cool energy that we have, but it's that child-free thing that I am finding is not common out there.
What's really strange is that, yes, I know words. What's really strange is I've never been married, do not have kids, but I like them. I don't have a problem with them. But especially as an author and a speaker who tries to book things with your book, I have encountered so many times, oh, we're a mommy group. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it works for mommies, even if I'm not one, but okay. So I love the fact that you embrace the child freeness. I once had someone a high five me, yay, child's free. And it just struck me as I obviously identify because I do not have kids, but I don't identify when people say, yes, this is a child-free group. Yeah, okay, duh, but we're all people. Right? Mommies need goals. Non-mommies need goals.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're getting kind of the opposite of, well, you're not a mom, so you can't come talk to us.
Yeah, it's very strange, especially in a field like goal setting. My thing, I'm on a mission to change goal culture in and out of the workplace. I feel like goals are magic. And why wouldn't the one thing you're not supposed to say, who is the audience? Everyone. Sorry, goals, everyone. So I say busy professionals because I had to categorize it. But it's really who can't benefit from setting goals, making a plan, and really embracing the fact that when you're working towards something, it really makes the rest of your life better.
It's interesting. I'm sitting here thinking, I remember I was on a different kind of call a few months ago, and somebody was like, I just hate goals. So I have to ask, because that is not the way that I am wired. Like I joke with my husband, my goal is to win at wifing. And you don't win at wifing, y'all. And my husband's like, you don't have to win at wifing, but that's the kind of goal-oriented person I am. I want to win at wifing. I get that there is no, well, I mean, there probably are some people with some system point. That is not the kind of marriage that I have, though. But like, I always want to win. I always want to hit the goal so when I'm hearing people saying, well, I don't like goals, what do you say to somebody that's like, oh, I don't like goals. I don't need goals. That's not how I live my life.
Right, exactly. And and something I often say is, goal is not a 4-letter word. Okay, it is, but it's the good kind, right? I feel like, and I've had people say this to me, I don't do goals, whatever. And they're like, but they're on a track for something. That you can use the word goal, you can use the word intention, you can use the word aim. If you don't want to use the word goal, by all means, don't use the word goal. But if you're just sitting there okay with life as it is, you're probably not tuning in to this podcast, right?
That's a good point. Yes, this was actually somebody not in my community. It was somebody else's community, come to think of it.
Yeah, it's a weird word because there's a lot of negative around it. If I don't reach my goals, then I'm not worthy. If I don't do this, I'm a failure. And that is like the opposite. I mean, I'm this optimism. I am the power of the first thing I do in any workshop that I'm leading on goals is I say, what is your most recent win? Because you start goals by celebrating your wins. What have you accomplished? And then you go into what's next. So if you're not in that mindset, in that mind frame, you probably haven't stumbled upon me before. If you are open to making your life better, let's have it. I have nothing against people who don't like goals. I roll. But I will say,
not just like eye roll, like you have to be watching. For those of you that are listening to this, she knows you that you're like,
Exactly. Well, okay, so this is the thing. So I've been leading goal workshops for years, and then my background is project management and communication. And my main communication client was going away. So I said, okay, this is an opportunity for me to fully step in to what I believe I was meant to do, which is help people figure out what they want and how to get it, through goals. And my mom said, you hate SMART goals. Why don't you create DEB goals? And it worked. It was perfect with the system that I have been teaching for years. The reason I don't like SMART goals is because they are a tool. They are not how you achieve your goals. They are functions, systems you put in place to get there. If you really want to achieve your goals, you need to start with the foundation, which is where DEB comes in.
And we're going to get the DEB method here, y'all, but not yet. Because I want to, we've got some conversations to have, and, I want to attempt to start her bio, which I probably won't finish. And that's okay, because, hey, we're women entrepreneurs living child-free. And I just figured out, we just don't do things the way that everybody else does. We don't usually finish the bio, but I'm going to at least start it here, y'all. So Debra,
go right ahead.
is an award-winning author, podcaster, and goal strategist who, as she mentioned, is on a mission to change goal culture in and out of the workplace. So before we get into the DEB method, because really I want to get there, however, teaser, y'all, you got to wait. Tell me a little bit about this goal of changing. So this is your goal to change the culture. Lots of goals going on here. So tell me about your mission to change this goal culture.
Well, as I said before, I believe that goals are magic. They have power. And in most workplaces, people go in, they do a job. If you're lucky, you love the job. But I believe the businesses that succeed are the ones that listen to their teammates to find out what their goals are within the company. So in alignment, obviously, with the team and the company goals. But if you don't know what your people are striving for, you cannot utilize them to the best of their ability. We found during the pandemic, when everybody had free time, yes, we spent time binging, maybe a little bit more than we should have on TV, but we also had all this extra time when we weren't commuting. So how did we spend some of it? Starting a hobby, learning new things, developing skills or whatever. So your team people, they may know things that they didn't know when you hire them, because everything is at our fingertips. We can learn basically whatever we want, right? Without leaving the comfort of our home. But if you do not ask your people what their goals are, whether it is they would like to do special projects, or they want to move up in the corporate ladder, or maybe their goal is just to leave work at the door at the end of the day and not be bugged on the weekend so they could do their side hustle or have family time or whatever. When you know these things, you can support the journey, whether it's within the company or to support them so they've got the barriers between work time and personal time. So I go in and I love doing workshops right before the annual reviews, because it helps the teammates, the employees, the whatever we want to call them, really identify their wins, but where they want to go, where they see themselves within the company. When their manager knows that, they can put them on the path they need. And when you've got happy employees, they stick around. So that's really end game, is to create an environment where your employees feel valued and they're not going anywhere.
I love the idea of not only understanding our employees better, because you're right. If we know what their goal is, I was actually having a conversation with one of my coaching clients recently, and we've got one person on the team. It's like, where is her vision? What does she want to do? And I'm like, yeah, this is a great conversation to have with her, because just because we have an idea doesn't mean that other people's goals are aligned with what we think for them. You don't know if you haven't had that conversation.
Right. And so let's say during the pandemic, you learned how to code because you were bored. Would you rather move? Not me, you.
Sounds
Right.
like you saw my face. I was like, ooh, that sounds like.
Or you learn
But
graphic design or whatever. Wouldn't you rather move somebody within your company who's got a new skill set, or do you want them to leave?
Right.
And that's really what it is. When you know what people's goals are, what their skills are, what their big picture is, then you can support them. And when you support them, they feel seen and valued and they don't want to go anywhere. And that is a win for everybody.
I love this conversation, and it's very timely. Just last month, it was a funny thing. So I was sharing with my husband that I'm working on my next book. So it's coming out October 16th. So I should finish writing. I should finish writing it. Totally fine. I wrote first book in 10 days, or I'm sorry, second book I wrote in 10 days, 26,000 words. So I know worst comes to worst, I can get it out. Not super worried. I've got the content. It's just putting it down. But I shared with my husband, okay, I need to be a little bit better about writing. And, you know, it was like a Saturday, and he's like, so are you writing today? And I'm like, no. And then while I was at like Hot Pilates, I'm like, yeah, I should probably get my pen out and type, but do some writing today.
Right.
And then I wrote a Facebook post like I was annoyed with my husband, myself, and the universe today because I was like,
you reminded me of my goal.
Right. So then that next day on Sunday, as I'm leaving, my yoga instructor who follows me on Facebook was like, are you writing today, Tiffanie? And I'm like, crap. Yes, I guess I am. And so like me sharing just with my husband and then sharing on social, like I've got these people that are cheering me on in a way that they would not have if I didn't share with them, hey, here's this goal of what I want to create.
Yes, because you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. They are your champions. They are your resources, your support system. And that's really how I got into the goal game, as it were. I was doing events at Barnes & Noble this back when I lived in the Chicago suburbs. And I've lived in LA for more than 25 years. So do whatever math you want. Whenever I wanted to fill the calendar, I would just hang out. And one day, one of the regulars said, will you start a writer support group? And I said, if you think people will show up, let's give it a shot. And for me, that was, what have you accomplished? What are you working on? What are your goals? And how can we support you? And it was a success, but it really taught me the power of goals because I wasn't going to ask anyone to do something I wasn't prepared to do myself. So I was setting goals as well and working on different things. So even if it was the day of the meeting, I remember, so my degree is journalism, but I was working in the bookstore because, 90s. Anyway, but I wanted to do some freelancing. So my goal was I was just going to write a spec article, slice of life column before every meeting. That was always my goal. And then I was at it. They did this Generation Expo, and there was this guy selling magazine subscriptions. And I said, are you looking for writers? So because I had that goal, I had spec articles ready to go. They actually published one, and I ended up freelancing for them for several years. But it was because I set goals, I did the things, and I was ready when the opportunity came my way.
I love it. Yeah, there is something to be said about being ready. And, sometimes people are like goals and do I have to do? But to me, it's more of this is just the direction I want to head. Just because let's be honest, many of us, like myself, pandemic really changed my business. Now I am much happier now when I like, some people will not agree, I like Zoom. I mean, don't get me wrong. If given the choice, yes, I would prefer to much more have this conversation live, to be in a studio to record these things, to when I'm facilitating a program, be in person. Yes. And like we're doing our International Childfree Day kickoff event. We just did that last week, and we had people there from several countries that we would not have been able to have that happen if we were on, in person. It would have just been the Tampa crew. Not that that's a bad thing, but I love what we can do now with Zoom.
And I tell like 3 stories at once. Someone else's new. So your goal guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals, that came out in January 2020. So 6 weeks before the world had changed by circumstance, out came my book to help people embrace change by choice or by circumstance. And I remember, so we all remember the last event we were at, right, in March. And shortly thereafter, my publisher said, have you thought about doing a live show? And I had. And at the time, I was leading the Goal Chat Twitter chat, which I sunsetted in a couple years ago because it got way too, and I will not call it the other word, when it got way too toxic. That's the word on Twitter. So anyway, but at the time I'd been leading this Sunday night Twitter chat and it had been in my head. So I started doing Goal Chat. And Goal Chat started out, the first 2 episodes were just me talking. They were very short because I'm great in conversation, but give me a microphone. There's just so many things I can riff off of on myself. And then I started doing one-on-one interviews. And then the end of 2020, I said, how do you throw a holiday party when no one can leave the house? Well, you bring in a bunch of people who don't know each other. So I did a special Happy Debcember. That's when I start the year, Goal Chat. And it was great. In the next couple months, I love the format. But I was like mixing it up. So I was doing like 1 or 2 a month on a panel. By spring, they were all panel shows. And the reason that I'm sharing this is that led to the book that came out in January, 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. So I interviewed 60 achievers in business, tech, entertainment, food, other creative fields. And they are all people that I know. They're friends, connections, people I've interviewed through my other podcast and Goal Chat. Or people who I interviewed said, oh, you have to interview so-and-so. I want to see how that happened. Of the people in the book, I've met maybe a quarter of them in person.
Yeah.
Most of them are people who I met through the magic of Zoom. So there you go.
Yeah.
And you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. So I love that I went from a book that led to a podcast that led to a book.
I love it. Yeah. And we never know where it's going to take us. I had somebody a few months, maybe, I don't know, this summer was like, how are you doing at your goals for the year? And I'm like, horribly. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I hadn't thought about creating women entrepreneurs living child free. That was not part of my vision. Like, I didn't know it was going to happen. So yeah, I'm a little behind on a lot of my goals. And sometimes that's okay because we have these detours that are totally worth it.
Which is why Deb is so good to be the foundation. I love it. You've got the Mission Motto Worksheet. Yeah, that's amazing.
So, y'all, she's gonna talk. Are you ready to talk to us about Deb a little bit?
Yeah, let me talk about Deb, and then I'll talk about the worksheet that you. So whenever I lead a workshop, people are like, "Oh, I want to learn more about Deb," and I'm like, "Well, grab your goal guide." But if you just need an at your glance, go get thedebmethod.com/MMW. But yes, heart, wait for the horse. So Deb stands for determine your mission, explore your options, brainstorm your path. So determine your mission. You can't get what you want unless you know what that is. Explore your options. Okay, you want this life. What does that look like? And then brainstorm your path is making a plan. So determine your mission. When I lead workshops and when I work with clients, we spend a lot of time on the date because that is the basis of everything. So you may not have known what you wanted to create, but you knew who you are and what you want to bring off into the world. So determine your mission starts with visualization. When you think about the life you want, what does that look like? And then you write your current bio and then your future bio. And these are both written in the third person, but even the future bio, write in the present tense because that gives it power. So you're taking the inventory. Where are you now? Where are you going? And from there, you can write a mission statement, which is who you are, what makes you unique, and how you help. And that how you help, that is the fuel, right? It's the motivation. And when you're helping others, and it can be through a product or a service, but it can also be to educate, inform, entertain, whatever it is. And then from there, if you're doing your motto right, it's long and clunky. If you're doing your mission statement right, it's long and clunky, which is why you need a motto, which is a short 3 to 5 word, just a phrase or a title or a theme song to motivate you. So for example, my mission is to use my background, experience, methodology to help as many people as possible figure out what they want and how to get it so they can lead better, more fulfilled lives. and in turn help other people. Again, long and clunky. My motto is goal setting simplified. So everything I create is with simplified in mind, because changing your life is challenging enough. I made the instructions really easy. So if you hone in on Deb, so the worksheet goes through the mission and motto exercise and gives you a place to write short-term and long-term goals, the ones that are top of mind. But that's really where you start. And that way, as you're going through your journey, through your life, and opportunities come your way, you can say, is this in alignment with my mission, with my motto? If yes, then yes. If no, then am I getting another benefit from it? If yes, then yes. If no, why am I even considering this? So you're going to create more things knowing what your intention is. And even if the things that you create are different than your vision, it's all to serve your mission and what you want to put out into the world.
I love it. And I'm all about simplicity. Simple, easy. I joke because a lot of people say KISS, keep it
simple,
stupid. I don't like to call people's names. So I like to keep it short and simple. And so I love the idea of the simplicity of one page. What is that mission? How do we break it down into the motto? Because yes, if we can keep it simple, that makes it so much more likely that we use it. And I love that idea of the mission statement as, does this fit with my mission? So when I was thinking about, do I want to create women and entrepreneurs living child-free? I had to think about, okay, here's my personal mission in life. Does this fit in, or is this a bright, shiny object, a BSO, bright, shiny object just trying to distract me?
Right. And so one of the things, so I host the Goal Chat podcast. I also do one called Taste Buds with Deb. And even though my food podcast isn't goals per se, it kind of is, because, cooking. So I managed to cram it under my umbrella. Everything that I do is to help people, be more themselves, create what they want out of life. You were talking about your book before. I also have a specialty in book proposal strategy. So it's the same thing. You start with the framework, you go with the basics, and you build the house. You start with the scaffolding and you fill in the blanks. And it works for any project. So I was telling you my origin story before, but I stopped. In the middle, I jumped over the part where I moved to LA. I restarted the group and people said, you're good at this. I've been trying to write my book for years. Can you help me? And we got it done in 3 months. Or, you're good at this. Will you speak at my event? So that's how it started, from this thing that I also did to this thing that was my world. I never knew. If you asked kid Deb, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was always going to be a writer. That was always part of it. But I also said, whatever I do, I want to make an impact. And being able to help people by directing them to the answers, by the way, that they already have, right? To figure out what they want and how to get it. I mean, what's more impactful than helping people claim their lives, set goals, and create what they want?
I like it. Yeah. Because I think that if more people could get what they want within reason, y'all, seriously, that what a difference it would make. And I think a lot of people don't have a clue where they're going. So anything works out. It's that whole Alice in Wonderland with the Cheshire Cat. Where are you going? I don't know. Then it doesn't matter.
Well, there's a cheat. So let's say your life is okay. You're good with status quo. Again, I can't imagine if you're watching this, if you're good with status quo, you're looking to amp up your life, right? But maybe you can't change your whole life. You can't quit the day job. The world would be a lot happier probably if people could quit the jobs that they don't like.
Or they
That's not necessarily.
Or they would just realize that they are miserable and it's them and not the job.
Right. Okay, not feasible. But what you can do is find something that you love doing and do it a little bit. You've always wanted to start a podcast or write a book or start an Etsy store or learn something or do something or be something. Do that, a couple times a day, set appointments, and allow that goodness, the happy that you're feeling from doing these things that you love, let that leak over into the rest of your life. It's going to make everything better.
I absolutely adore it. So y'all, there are some things here. I'm putting the link back up, Deb. So it's the Deb Method, make it super easy.com/MMW. And I know you've got some other stuff there. Can we contact you through the website, or what's the best way to find you online? How do we reach out if we're like, Deb, I got some goals, or I need to figure out my goals? How can you help me? How do they go about doing that?
Okay, well, I am the Deb at the Deb Method everywhere in social media, so you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Look me up on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is funny because back when I was freelancing, I thought my name was too boring, so my freelance site was coastbunny.com. That actually now redirects to my LinkedIn. Anyway, reining myself back in, you can, if you go to thedebmethod.com, you can find out more about Goals with Deb and Books with Deb. And you can also email me, deb@thedebmethod.com. And if you're a DIYer, grab a copy of your goal guide. It will take you through the whole system. There are lots of brainstorming exercises to help you really hone in on what's next for you, what you want to create for yourself. And then the second half is strategies for success, and there are worksheets and resources. The new book, 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting, How to Stay Focused, Grow Your Network, and Get More Done in Less Time. Because really, what's better than a keyword-rich subtitle? For the book, I interviewed 60 people, as I said, in business, tech, entertainment, and food, other creative fields, and asked them, what is your secret for setting and or getting goals? And it's 52 secrets, but I actually interviewed 60 people because there's a bonus in each chapter. Ooh. And Guy Kawasaki wrote the afterword. So this is the fun thing I like to do with the book is you can read it straight through, or you can go to the different sections, or you can just turn a page and say, okay, book, what do I need to learn today? Okay, this is really funny. The one I turned to was Bobby Carlton, who's the founder of Innovation Women, who is why we met. And hers is visibility equals opportunity. The more you're out there, the more you could spread the word. You never know who's listening. So, I mean, does this theory of turning to any page of the book work, or what?
All right, a little technical difficulties here, y'all. However, we're back and super excited. And just to let you know, do check us out. We've got our facebook.com/group/women entrepreneurs living child free. Come hang out. We talk about all of the amazing events that are happening. You get to network with amazing women like Debra that is here with us. And Debra, we have reached our time now today where it's my chance to say, hey, what's that one thing we need to know before we go?
It's your life. I mean, you know this. It is your life. It is your choice. They are your goals. So find something that you love and be sure to do some of it, at least a little bit. Not even every day. You don't need that kind of pressure. But think about these goals, that the life you want to create, little bit every day. Work towards them a few times a week. And you never know what you're going to create when you invest yourself. You never know what you'll create when you invest in yourself and your goals. And you can create that life you deserve and desire.
I love it, Debra. Thank you so much for sharing that. Y'all, as you're watching this, you should be here every Friday for amazing tips like we just got from Debra on, having that mission and how do we get towards our goals. If we ain't got a goal, we ain't going nowhere. So let's have a goal. And even if it's just baby steps, we'll get there eventually. Thank you, Debra, for being here. And we'll see the rest of y'all next week.